From NJ PBS Studios, this is NJ Spotlight News with Brianna Venozzi.
Hello and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Joanna Gagis. Brianna Venozzi is off. Tonight, we're taking a look at the impact of summer on some of the state's most vulnerable residents, the homeless and individuals struggling with food insecurity. With continued heat waves hitting the summer, we look at the impact of high temperatures on individuals experiencing homelessness. And later, how summertime can actually mean food insecurity for some. We talk with the head of an organization that's working to keep kids and families fed while school is out. But first, from the front lines to the home front, what's being done to assist veterans struggling with homelessness in New Jersey? We'll take a look. That's next.
Major funding for NJ Spotlight News is provided in part by NJM Insurance Group, serving the insurance needs of residents and businesses for more than 100 years.
For too many veterans, one of the challenges after returning from service is finding and keeping permanent housing. While the Sherrill administration is continuing a program started in 2024 called Bringing Veterans Home. Governor Mikey Sherrill says there's now a statewide system to help support those who've given so much to their country. Here with us to discuss that effort as part of our Under the Dome series is Major Vincent Solomino, Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Veterans Affairs. Commissioner, it's so great to have you on the show. I spoke to you back in May, and we talked about a number of different initiatives happening within your department. But today we really want to zero in on the Bringing Veterans Home initiative. Can you describe this program that I know was launched on Veterans Day in 2024?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me back. I am so proud of what New Jersey has achieved through the state of New Jersey's Bringing Veterans Home program. Since that launch in November of 2024, together with our partners at the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, as well as nonprofit, local, and federal partners, the state of New Jersey has permanently housed over 2,500 Garden State veterans, and we are on track to ensure that veteran homelessness in New Jersey is brief, rare, and non-recurring.
The governor joined with you, and you mentioned Department of Community Affairs, Commissioner Jacqueline Suarez recently, really at the Trenton War Memorial, we should point out, but to announce that the state has fully funded housing resources so that no veteran has to go homeless. Can you just help us understand what that means and what that looks like, that funding piece from the state?
That's right. There are three key components to bringing veterans home. One, the state has surged the number of housing vouchers dedicated for veterans. Two, we've deployed street outreach teams in 6 regions up and down the state to identify homeless veterans as well as veterans who are at risk of homelessness. We find that right now the number one cause of homelessness in New Jersey in both the veteran and non-veteran population is eviction. So we've been very broad in doing our best to outreach to folks to provide them with the services that they've earned through their time in uniform. And lastly, we don't believe, as a key component of the program, of handing someone the keys to a house or an apartment and saying good luck. So Bringing Veterans Home also provides wraparound case management support so that veterans can access the benefits that they have earned through their time in the armed forces.
It's like, Commissioner, you looked at my notes and you knew where I was going. You just touched on all the pieces that I do want to follow up on, because certainly a whole lot to drill down on here. First, when we talk about housing vouchers, for those who are not, intimately involved in the lingo and the language, what does that actually mean?
So New Jersey set aside funds in the state budget under Governor Sherrill's leadership, as well as deployed vouchers, which provide a veteran, in this case, with the ability to go to a private landlord and rent their home using the voucher, which is typically somewhere around the market value, depending on where they are in the state. I do want to emphasize that these vouchers are both state, largely state, but also some federal, and that's a result of our partnership with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Okay, you talked about street teams, and I want to better understand how you actually reach those in need, because in the conversations we've had with folks who work in the homelessness space, they tell us consistently it's hard sometimes to find the people who need the services the most. How do street teams deploy to actually find those individuals in need?
As I mentioned, we have 6 regions that we have set the state into, and those loosely correspond to other regions that are used by our partners in homelessness prevention throughout New Jersey. The street outreach teams are managed, executed by nonprofit organizations with specific local subject matter expertise in their area. For example, the needs of the community in Sussex County, New Jersey are very different than the needs of the community in Middlesex County or Cape May County. And so by dividing the state into 6 regions, we deploy these teams into the community to identify one, folks think often of street homeless veterans, which is the most tragic and frankly the most dangerous during extreme heat or extreme cold, but also the teams work with veteran service organizations. We have formally partnered with the American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Disabled American Veterans, so that local posts and chapters, when they encounter a veteran in crisis, they know how to get in touch with bringing veterans home. And our expectation is that within hours, and I mean that to underscore, within hours, the veteran is connected to someone who can help them achieve rapid housing as we navigate a permanent housing outcome.
You touched on wraparound services, and as you're talking to, I can't help but think of the folks who we heard, and I don't know the number specifically that was confirmed, but folks who were found to be dead after that extreme heat wave, who some say were unhoused or struggling with homelessness at the time. How do you ensure that they not only get a roof over their head, but access, you called it wraparound services, all the services they need, that kind of holistic care to help make sure that they can stay on their feet?
For me, bringing veterans home and our work to effectively end veteran homelessness is one of the signal achievements of New Jersey state government within the last decade. This is an example of government agencies organizing ourselves around a problem as we deploy a solution, as opposed to asking an individual in crisis to navigate sometimes complex bureaucracies. So our partners at the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, they are the subject matter experts in homelessness prevention. You spoke about the tragedies relating to extreme heat. I'm so privileged to work beside colleagues who know exactly how to navigate the housing systems in New Jersey. And then here at the New Jersey Department of Veterans Affairs, we have a veteran service office in each of our 21 counties, staffed by trained and accredited officers who can help a veteran navigate access to healthcare, education, job training, a host of services. And so I'm really proud of what New Jersey offers veterans, and we're certainly going to continue to improve, but this is a great start as we seek to effectively end veteran homelessness.
Are the challenges for female veterans different when it comes to helping them access housing or other wraparound services?
Women veterans are the fastest growing demographic within the veterans community in New Jersey. And you correctly identify that, yes, women veterans who are experiencing housing insecurity face different challenges. Oftentimes those veterans may have dependents, children. And so the solution for them when we think about rapid housing may not necessarily be a shelter, but it may be a more tailored solution. And that's why I'm so pleased to partner with the nonprofit organizations up and down the state who know, organizations like Soldier On, organizations like Catholic Charities, who know exactly how to support the veteran in need.
You just said you want to effectively end veteran homelessness. And I know the last time we spoke, you used the term functional zero. But as I understand it, the terminology is changing. What is the goal? How do you describe it now?
We understand that when we say functional zero, and this is a term that's used within the homelessness prevention space, that folks may say, okay, the state has said that they've achieved functional zero, but I'm driving down the street in my town and I encounter a homeless veteran. Well, the state said they ended veteran homelessness. What we have done here is build a system. We want folks to know that we now have the capacity to ensure that as veterans experience crises, because let's face it, we are never going to permanently solve the problem for good. People have emergencies, they lose jobs, they have issues with family and substance use. But as veterans become vulnerable and become at risk of homelessness, we have built a system under Governor Sherrill's leadership with support from the legislature to ensure that we have the capacity to take veterans entering homelessness and bring more out on the other side into permanent housing outcomes, as we have with the over 2,500 Garden State heroes who've been housed under this program.
So you capture them as the need arises. Thank you so much. Appreciate you explaining this program, this important work that you're doing. Major Vincent Solomino, Commissioner of the Department of Veterans Affairs. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Under the Dome is made possible in part by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
School's out for summer, and for most kids, that means no more homework. But for many kids across the state, that also means no more breakfast and lunch that were provided during the school day. It's estimated that more than 270,000 children in New Jersey experience food insecurity. And the summer is always a tougher time for that reason, but with the federal changes to SNAP benefits, that's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, it's made it so that some families truly don't know where their next meal will come from. I recently spoke with Terry Connolly, CEO of Nourish NJ, a Morris County-based organization, about what they're hearing from families who are struggling. Terry, thanks so much for coming on to talk to us. We know the summer months tend to be a time where we see increased hunger and food insecurity, but this summer in particular, residents are especially feeling it. Why? What's contributing to that?
So we know that in New Jersey, 1 in 7 children, which is 275,000 kids, experience food insecurity. And that is throughout the entire year. When you get to the summer months where families no longer have access to free and reduced meals at school, that puts that added pressure on the families. This year, compounding that is the increase in food costs. We all feel it when we go to the grocery store. We leave with what feels like not a whole lot of food, and the bill is so much higher than it would have been before. So it's not surprising that families are having a harder time. And then compound that with rising rent costs. And then the price of gas right now is so high. So all of these pressures are just squeezing families tighter and tighter, making it even harder for them this year than it has been previous summers.
There's also been some legislative changes. We know that last summer, Congress and the president moved forward a work requirement change for SNAP recipients. And it applies to many who receive SNAP, what's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program here in New Jersey. They say that they want these work requirements to reduce federal spending and to reduce dependency on welfare. Let me ask you this first. How many residents in New Jersey were impacted by the new requirements to be eligible for SNAP?
So the most recent count is that 38,000 households in New Jersey have lost access to their SNAP benefits. And we know that on average, 38 to 40% of people receiving SNAP have children. So included in that 38,000 people who have lost benefits is 20,000 children in New Jersey. So this is devastating for families, devastating for children who are growing up in this environment. You know, SNAP provides the basis for a lot of families to be able to go to the store and purchase what they need. It is by far not enough to cover all of the family's food needs. Which is why they also come to organizations like Nourish NJ every day to supplement what they can get with SNAP. But then, once you lose those SNAP benefits, you're just digging deeper and deeper into the hole, and families are really struggling right now.
Have you seen that this change to the work requirements is actually helping folks to get out there and get employed? Are we seeing increases in employment as it relates to this change?
We are not, because the vast majority of people who receive SNAP benefits are already working. So most people who are able to work are working. Where we're seeing people losing benefits is primarily people who are experiencing homelessness, veterans, people who are the primary caregiver for their children, so they need to be home. Childcare vouchers have also been cut, so access to care for your child has been significantly decreased. And, all of these things come together in a way that if you need to be working to keep your SNAP benefits, if you're not already working, the other supports that you need, like childcare, transportation, assistance with job searches, are just not there anymore. All of those programs have gone away or been significantly reduced. But I think the most important point is that most people who receive SNAP benefits are working already.
You, I know, are based in Morris County primarily. You're located in Dover and Morristown, yes?
Yes.
How do you reach people? Who is able to come in to Nourish NJ, and what types of services do you offer there? Just give us a sense of what your operation looks like.
Sure. So we have been in operation for 40 years. We started in Morristown and opened a Dover location 3 years ago. We are a no questions asked organization. So that means that anyone who walks through our doors is welcome to help themselves to food. And food is really the primary engagement that we have. So the ultimate goal is to help families and individuals build stability in their lives. So financial stability, to help them move past food insecurity. But it starts with the food. So no questions asked, no barriers. Everybody deserves food. Everybody has a right to food. So people come in, they help themselves, they get to know our social workers, and then we begin to work on things with them like how to increase their household income, how to control their housing costs, how to prevent eviction, how to get people quickly rehoused if they do lose their housing. We are the SNAP navigator for Morris County, so helping people access those benefits. We provide meals to college students at County College of Morris who can't afford to purchase meals on campus to help them stay in school and be able to graduate and have better incomes at the end of that education. So it's really wraparound services that are geared towards helping build stability and help people thrive instead of just survive.
We know that food banks more and more are feeling the crunch of having to supplement the gaps. And let me ask you this, what is the best way for folks to help if they do want to donate, if they do want to get involved?
So there's so many ways, volunteering. We use more volunteers now. On an average day, we have anywhere from 20 to 50 volunteers who help us make our mission happen. So if you have some extra time, volunteer for a local organization. We always need the hands. We always need the help. Food drives are helpful. So reach out to organizations near to you, including Nourish NJ, and find out what the current needs are. What are the things that we're shortest on? A lot of people have begun to donate produce from either their garden or from their community gardens, which is incredibly helpful because, as we all know, fresh produce is one of the most expensive things for families to access. So we really try to focus less on canned goods and dry goods and more on healthy, fresh foods that families have a difficult time affording. And then, of course, financial donations always help and are incredibly flexible to allow us to really adapt to exactly what is it that that family or that population on that specific time needs. So maybe there's a need for milk and eggs right now, or maybe there's a need for fresh produce, or maybe we didn't get the protein that we had ordered, so we need to go out and get that, or we need to deliver to people. So financial donations give us that flexibility to react quickly.
All right, Terry Connolly, I know you're doing good work out there on the ground, CEO of Nourish NJ. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Extreme heat at the start of July contributed to the deaths of 29 New Jersey residents. About a dozen of those deaths are suspected to be unhoused residents. Their deaths bring into focus an issue that continues to challenge the state, the number of people who are homeless and need services, especially during extreme weather events. As heat waves continue to hit the state this summer, I recently spoke with Connie Mercer, CEO of the Coalition to End Homelessness, about this issue and their efforts to make a difference. Connie, it's so great to have you with us. Thanks for taking some time to talk. We do know that 29 people died during the heat wave that blanketed the state from July 2nd to July 6th. What do we know about the number of those individuals who were unhoused?
We know for sure that at least 9 of them were unhoused, and that another 3 or 4 of them who were in cars but were probably living in their cars were also died a horrible, tragic, avoidable death.
Yeah, this is absolutely tragic. Is there anything more that you can share so that we understand the situation around how these individuals died?
They died because there is a homelessness crisis in New Jersey that has been precipitated by the increased impossible cost of housing and all of the other expenses that have gone up. In the month of June alone, there was a 57% increase in unsheltered homelessness from last year. And now there are more unsheltered people in New Jersey. That's over 10,000 people on those horrible hot nights who had no shelter of any sort. Than there were sheltered people in New Jersey who were safe in shelters or perhaps in motel rooms that some government
Connie,
agency or had bought for them.
let me jump in here because you raise a great point. The point in time count is a way that at least once a year individuals are able to track how many are unhoused in the state. Now this happens, I know, in the winter months, but in 2025, 13,700 individuals were found to be homeless, and that was an 8% increase over 2024. So this is a problem that's growing in New Jersey. When you say this was avoidable, what do you believe are the steps that state officials, local officials need to be taking, especially during these extreme weather, events?
Okay, I think it might be helpful if I gave you just a real brief overview of what's going on in homelessness right now, because I think that most folks just don't understand the magnitude of the problem. There's been a 70% increase in homelessness in New Jersey over the last 4 years. 70%. Last year, more than 42,000 people were counted as homeless. 60% of them were homeless for the very first time. One of the scary parts was that almost 3 people were coming into homelessness for every one person who the system could get out. And the system can't move them out because of the lack of affordable housing.
So then, Connie, let me jump in here. What do you believe is a response? Is it a legislative response? I know that you've said that this is a result of systemic policy failure. What policy helps to solve or minimize this problem?
There are a huge number of things that must be done. There must be more money put into the system. New Jersey spends less than our peer states on homelessness. In fact, Connecticut and Massachusetts, for example, spend almost double the amount of money per homeless person as New Jersey does. For the immediate problem, and on Wednesday, the temperature is going to be up over 101 again. We are going to have people who have wheelchairs, people who have heart conditions, people who have severe health issues who are going to be out unprotected in that 101-degree heat. The governor could declare a state of emergency immediately. There could be some changes so that shelters would be allowed to take in 20 or 30% more people during the state of emergency. Or we could, in a broader way, just declare an executive order declaring a state of emergency around homelessness generally, which I would think we need to do. We could require submission of comprehensive code red plans across all 21 counties, which we don't currently have, and identify state fundings to make that a reality. We could require cooling centers to remain open during holidays and extended emergencies. One of the horrors during the last Independence Day crisis, when so many people died, was that the designated cooling centers were not open. So often the designated cooling centers are places like recreation centers or libraries, and they had closed for the 3-day weekend, and nobody had.
That's such a great point that you raised there. And I wonder, is this city policy or these city ordinances that need to change? Is this something where the governor needs to step in? The administration is responsible to change that? Who is responsible?
The governor needs to step in and require that there be realistic, well thought out plans. And then there has to be someone who's responsible for enforcement. Right now, the issue of enforcement is very, very, very unclear. There are no penalties for a municipality or a county that doesn't adequately provide during an emergency.
These are really great points that you raised, Connie. I appreciate you coming on to talk to us about it and continue to highlight this important issue. Connie Mercer, CEO of the New Jersey Coalition to End Homelessness. Thank you.
Joanna, thank you so much.
That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Joanna Gagos. For the entire team here at NJ Spotlight News, thanks for being with us. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
RWJ Barnabas Health. Learn more at rwjbh.org.